Just based upon their past performance, the city of El Paso feels that Asarco is not good for El Paso. It's not a good, clean industry. It's not part of the 21st century. Just like we would not expect our soldiers to be fighting on horseback anymore, we no longer expect a major polluter like Asarco to be operating right in the heart of downtown El Paso.
When I see the black smoke coming out, it's pollution in the air. And I had a daughter, well, I have a daughter, and she's asthmatic. Even though we live on the east side, you know, the wind blows. So that's, personally, I'm against it.
The city of El Paso is in the midst of an unprecedented boom. The federal government recognized the city's many quality of life attributes when it focused on El Paso as an area of growth during the BRAC process. The state of Texas recognized the potential of El Paso when it approved the construction of the country's second new medical school in the U.S. in 25 years, and the only medical school on an international border. Housing starts are exploding. Commercial construction is at near record levels. El Paso is racing into the new century as a major metropolitan player. Census figures project that by 2020, El Paso will have a population close to 940,000. El Paso is already in the top 25 largest cities in the nation. With its sister city of Ciudad Juarez, El Paso is emerging as a shining beacon of the future. The combined international population is approaching 3 million. The sun is shining on El Paso. The future is bright. Asarco is a part of El Paso's rich heritage. So is the horse cavalry of the U.S. Army. Both are to be celebrated as part of the fabric that made El Paso what it is today, but neither is a part of the modern El Paso. Lead and arsenic emissions in downtown El Paso are as out of place in 2007 as a saber-led cavalry charge through the streets of our modern city. The 800-foot Asarco smokestack is a historical monument to the past. Copper smelters are not the centerpiece for modern American cities. El Paso's future is shining brightly. Let's embrace it.
I'm sure it's going to bring jobs to El Paso, but I think the cleanup and everything else is more important than jobs right now.
You do have people who are saying, well, you know what, why do you want to turn away good-paying jobs? What they're not looking at is how many of the good-paying jobs, the 4,000 jobs that we've created in the last 2 years, how many of those jobs would not have located to El Paso had Asarco been operating? If they could have tasted the sulfur in the air, if they could have seen the smoke coming out of the smokestack, polluting downtown El Paso, polluting the university's property, putting a smoke over the freeway.
To keep El Paso moving forward, it is imperative that its citizens call and write Governor Rick Perry and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and let them know that while the Asarco smelter is part of our city's past, it must not be a part of our future. The message must be clear. Please don't restart Asarco. There should be no confusion. Of the 3 copper smelters currently operating in the United States, not one is located in the middle of a major metropolitan area. El Paso is indeed proud of its industrial economic base and supports the businesses that are such a vital part of our community and our future prosperity. El Paso welcomes and embraces industry, but it must be industry that plays by the rules and makes a positive contribution. Asarco is not one of those businesses. Here's why. Asarco is not a good corporate citizen and does not comply with environmental standards. Asarco continually violated its state-issued air permit during the entire 6 years it operated in the 1990s. Consider this dubious record it has achieved. Sulfur dioxide at double the authorized levels. Toxic arsenic and lead levels exponentially higher than permitted. Nitrogen oxide levels 2 1/2 times above allowable levels. Carbon monoxide levels 11 times higher than authorized. The EPA has found that Asarco illegally burned hazardous waste from 1993 through 1997. The EPA has identified Asarco as being responsible for contaminating residential property soils due to decades of emissions of arsenic and lead from its El Paso smelter. There is no way to tell whether the smelter is in compliance with its permitted emissions levels, and the TCEQ will have no way of knowing whether Asarco's air emission levels meet the permit terms. Asarco does not measure the level of contaminants in the incoming raw materials. Asarco measures contaminants from only 3 of its 103 emission points. Asarco does not measure lead, arsenic, cadmium, or any other metals from the plant. Despite Asarco's claim of economic prosperity, the fact is the company is in bankruptcy. Despite its advertising claims, Asarco's recent record in El Paso has not been a good one. Its failure to comply with the terms of previous permit requirements negates its rights to have an air permit reissued.
By the advertisement that's been going on, I know that it's great for the economy and that they could bring more jobs, but at whose benefit? You know, is it the benefit of El Paso or the benefit of the company that will come out ahead? And also, against what risk?
It was determined by the Environmental Protection Agency that approximately 1,100 residences were contaminated by lead and arsenic from Asarco. Neither Asarco nor the TCEQ can quantify how much lead, arsenic, and other metals would be emitted if the plant resumes operations. Some children and adults already carry a body burden of lead due to past exposure, and this health hazard will continue to grow as new emissions of lead and arsenic from Asarco again settles onto the ground and into dust in homes, exposing and re-exposing our citizens to a preventable health hazard. The threat to human health from the exposure of these contaminants from both the air and soil has never been evaluated. Data from Asarco shows that if the smelter is restarted, its air emissions, combined with existing emissions, will exceed federal health standards.
And if I was a visitor traveling by through here, gee, I wouldn't even want to live here.
The international opposition to Asarco's permit request cuts across all political, partisan, and geographical lines, and includes federal, state, city, and county elected officials, the mayors of Sunland Park, New Mexico, and Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, local residents, prominent business owners and civic leaders, and medical and public health officials. The widespread opposition to the Asarco renewal application is a result of Asarco's flagrant record of noncompliance with environmental protection rules and its threat to public health. The TCEQ comment period attracted an astounding 10,500 written responses, with more than 9,600 comments opposing Asarco and only 880 supporting the reopening. People are still continuing to submit letters.
We don't want this Asarco to be operating. I think we already know the past performance of El Paso, the Asarco, and we don't want to engage in that type of activities in the future. I think that there's a good impetus in the region for economic development. That's really sound economic development, and we don't want to go to the elements of the past.
I just think it's a lot of air pollution. And I mean, we already have enough air pollution as is, so we don't need any more.
My prediction is that if Asarco does get their permit and they start operating again, that people will look at this town as a dusty little border town and say, you know what, we deserve better for our employees. We deserve better for our company, and we're going to locate somewhere else. It would be extremely difficult to market El Paso and compete with the other major cities in the United States, and they're all competing to get companies to locate to their city. It would be extremely difficult to us to compete on a level footing with other companies if you have a major polluter like that that's operating.